Today I'm interested in finding out how Chat GPT is at interpreting humor. So this is a page from a calendar that I have, got for Christmas, the Argyle Sweater. It's one of those one-panel comics. I grew up with the Far Side as far as the one-panel funny punny comics went. There's been several types of comics like that that have come out since then and that were probably around prior to that. But the Argyle Sweater is one that I got a calendar for. So I find with the comics that I've seen in this calendar in particular, they're kind of hit or miss on me. A lot of them are based on word puns, which I usually get. This is the first one that I have no idea what the joke is. And I find out using Chat GPT what the joke is in it. Now I'm going to start with typing it in as a description and seeing what it comes out with. Figured we can do this together so you can not waste your time in actually doing the steps if you have the same kind of question. I like to basically start when I work with Chat GPT or any of these query type things with what my problem is, just so I set a base level so I don't understand the joke in this comic. But for right now, we'll just do a text description because I don't have a picture of it right offhand. Okay, so I wrote out, I don't understand the joke in this comic. I will describe the comic. It is a one-panel comic. The name of the comic series is The Argyle Sweater and it is drawn by Scott Hillburn. The comic is split pane. The top pane shows two astronauts in a space shuttle cockpit. One is typing on the screen, which shows the text, "I miss you a lot." The second astronaut is standing behind the first astronaut looking at the screen. His speech bubble says, "Sending a text to the little lady. A lot is 2 words. Here, move the cursor between the A and the L and then press space." The astronaut typing has a speech bubble that says, "No." Pane below shows 2 astronauts floating in space with the space shuttle and the Earth in the background. So ChatGPT has responded. The joke in this comic plays on a linguistic misunderstanding that leads to an unexpected and humorous outcome. Here's a breakdown to help you understand the humor. Setup. Alright, the comic starts with an astronaut attempting to send a heartfelt message. "I miss you a lot," presumably to someone they care about back on Earth. The phrase "a lot" is commonly misspelled "a lot," which is a frequent grammatical correction people often make. Misinterpretation. The second astronaut, trying to be helpful, suggests a grammatical correction by advising the first astronaut to separate "a" and "lot" into 2 words, as "a lot" is the correct spelling. He instructs to move the cursor between A and L and then press space, which in the context of text editing means to insert a space character to correct the spelling. Punchline. The punchline comes from the dual meaning of press space. While the second astronaut means to press the space bar to correct the spelling mistake, the first astronaut interprets press space as pressing a button that ejects them into outer space. Okay. This misunderstanding is humorously confirmed in the second pane, showing both astronauts floating in space, indicating the first astronaut followed the literal interpretation of the instruction, leading to their accidental ejection from the shuttle. Humor. The humor lies in the play on words with press space and the drastic overreaction to a simple grammatical correction, which results in an absurd and comically exaggerated outcome. It also taps into the common experiences with autocorrect or typing mistakes, taking a relatable situation to an extreme and unexpected conclusion. This comic uses mix-up between a common language correction and the literal action of pressing a button in the spacecraft with space having a double meaning to create a humorous situation. It's a playful take on how a small misunderstanding can have dramatically exaggerated consequences, especially in the unique context of astronauts in space. So nothing in this comic shows like a separate space button. So maybe that's just like a typo. maybe that's missing from the comic, which is important. Context is always important, because without that context, this makes no sense. But maybe Chat GPT is interpreting it wrong or differently. So let me ask that question. Let's just do a quick follow-up. I followed up with, there is no space button labeled in the comic. Could there be another meaning? Chat GPT has responded, reflecting on your description again, it seems I might have initially misinterpreted the setup of the joke. Let's explore another angle without assuming specific details not mentioned in your description. In the comic, the humor can also be derived from the astronaut's fear of making a common grammatical correction, treating it as if it were a grave mistake. Here's an alternative interpretation. Literal interpretation fear. The first astronaut's no reaction to the suggestion of adding a space between A and L might not be about misunderstanding leading to being ejected into space, since there's no mention of a space button in your description. Instead, the punchline could be the astronaut's exaggerated fear of correcting the message, as if even a minor edit could lead to significant negative consequences. This overreaction is humorous because it's such an extreme response to a simple and benign suggestion. Exaggeration for comic effect. The exaggerated reaction to a common everyday suggestion correcting a typo highlights how sometimes people can overreact to minor corrections or suggestions, making a mountain out of a molehill. Unexpected outcome. The humor might also stem from the juxtaposition of a mundane task, texting a simple message, with the extreme and hazardous environment of space. The astronaut's exaggerated fear and the subsequent scene of the astronauts floating in space could symbolize how small mistakes or corrections can feel overwhelmingly significant in high-stress or unfamiliar situations, even though in reality they are quite manageable. Given this interpretation, the comic plays on the theme of overreaction to minor issues, using the setting of space and the astronaut's situation to exaggerate the humor in an otherwise mundane interaction. It highlights a common human tendency to react strongly to small matters, especially in contexts where the stakes seem high, even if the actual issue at hand is relatively trivial. As far as the humor goes, I think the first explanation is probably, seems to be the more accurate one, even though we're assuming that there's a space button that isn't seen. Overall, Chat GPT has maybe tapped into like what the premise is, the humor. I mean, maybe it has to do with that idea of overreacting. There's probably an element to overreacting to a small mistake that's there and important to recognize in life in general. So good job, Chat GPT, on finding some thought in that, or maybe you didn't. Maybe Scott Hillburn had a completely different, Scott Hillburn, right? Yep, maybe Scott Hillburn had a completely different intent in it, and I am just not getting it, and neither is ChatGPT. In any case, good work, Scott Hillburn, and making something that people, or at least I, am talking about. I'm sure somebody else has seen this comic and had the same question, so maybe this question is answered here for them as well. Or maybe it's just a conversation that needs to be brought to all the masses and expanded upon for years and years to come. So feel free to comment on what you think the comic means. And yeah, that's about it. Bye.